Hello, I'm Peter James from Career Life Transitions, and today we're going to be talking about your culture, your organization's culture. Now, culture is one of those things that you can't decide, we don't want to go there, it's too much trouble. You have a culture regardless of whether you want it or not. And I guess the next stage of that is to say, well, if we can't decide whether we do or don't want one, do we decide whether we build one by design or whether we let it happen naturally? And I guess a lot of organizations have organically built that culture, and a lot of the culture will be led by the leader. Now, as organizations change and as the marketplace changes and things like that, sometimes the culture may not be appropriate or may not be taken to that next level, or may not be giving you the growth opportunities that you want. For example, I worked for an organization at one stage there, which was quite small, 20 or 30 highly dedicated members of the culture, of the company, sorry. And the culture was everyone will take or do what it takes to be successful for the company, that there's no leadership required because everyone is taking the leadership roles themselves, and we don't need to focus on development and training of those people. But as that organization grew, it got to a certain point where it could no longer attract those type of people. So you get this organization where you ended up with people who did want training and development, that wouldn't do whatever it takes to make money for the company, and that did need some form of leadership. And at that point, you start to get a disconnect with your culture. When you have a disconnect with your culture, then you have a disconnect with your people. And depending how big that culture split is, then you have people starting to disengage and withdraw their discretionary effort. So culture is a mix of what the people want, what the leadership is looking for, but I think a lot of businesses don't look at the culture is actually required to achieve in that marketplace. Now, if you have a highly regulated marketplace, insurance, things like that, banking, then you want a culture where people are really looking at that focus and really looking at the processes and procedures, all the things that go to make up what we would expect in that kind of culture. On the other hand, if you're running a gaming business or online gaming, something like that, you're probably looking for a culture that's very agile, very fast moving, very creative. Now, if you mix those two up, you're not going to get what you want out of that organization, and people will not be attracted to it. So getting the culture right is very, very important. It's led by the top. The leader of the organization is the person who has the most influence on the culture. But as the organization gets bigger and bigger, then I guess ensuring that the leadership team of that organization also exhibits their characteristics and behaviors that the leader does as well, so that culture can flow through the organization and that culture is right for what the organization is trying to achieve. Now, disconnects in culture can be very expensive. I mean, if you have a look at most business we operate in Australia, apart from those who have some invention or creation or have some major innovation which is unique to them, we really are pretty much operating on the same tools, processes, techniques, and what have you as everybody else. If you're mining, you're digging dirt out of the ground. You might have your shovels and what have you, but they're not so uniquely different from your opposition. And the same with banking or insurance. It's not so uniquely different. So we're always looking for that little point of difference for us. But what makes one organization so much more successful than the other? Well, that would be based on the people. Because if all the processes and policies and procedures are all exactly the same, what is the only thing we've got left? And that is people. So paying attention and engaging your people, if we look at the integral model, a lot of organizations, the integral model looks at the team, the organization, and the individual. A lot of organizations are very, very heavily based on training. They're very based on policies, procedure, and things like that. Where they start to weaken a little bit is when they're looking at the culture of the group, and then where there are some broader gaps is when you start to look at the individuals in that. How do you make an organization, embrace that culture? Now, as I said, great organizations can be up to 20% more profitable than average organizations just purely based on the engagement and the efforts of their people. If you think of any kind of business, if everybody in that business withdrew their discretionary effort and just worked to rule, how damaging that would be for your business. When you engage with everybody, we have that really strong culture that's aligned to your marketplace, it's aligned to your leadership, and it's aligned to the needs of the people in the business. You've got a very, very strong opportunity to run and develop and grow a great business. Peter James is my name from Career Life Transitions, and we work with cultures. Thank you.